So I'm John Burns. I'm the owner of Burns Environmental, where I mostly work with rare plants and animals and do some permitting as well. And I've been consulting the Westfield Wild and Scenic and working with their interns on invasive species and also some wetland plant species. So we're up here in the Westfield watershed, part of the Wild and Scenic, and a project that's funded by the Wild and Scenic to remove Multiflora rose. And we're up in Beckett, where we have been working in a very nice natural beaver pond area to remove the Multiflora rose in the swamp there. And when you do a project like this, you want to think about, where did this rose come from? What's the seed source? And so we explored around a little bit, and well, we found this field, and there are loads of Multiflora rose here. Doesn't look too bad up here. That's pretty good. Well, this is nice. At least we have a big section that seems to be intact as far as not having other roses in it. We got some big ones in here. Look at that. That's almost like the mother plant back there. That's probably been around a long time. In talking with the landowner, I understand that there's another smaller leaching field out here. There's lots of pipes, plastic pipes under here, PVC pipes. And not only that, but also connecting pipes, you have to remember. So this, the super heavy machinery can't drive on this. Here's another feature that can be a little dangerous. You don't see it so much. For that machine just to come right into the middle of it, or to the arm to be raking through it, at the very least it'll rip out the fence, but you never know whether there's workers like myself next to it. This could get caught up in machinery and be a real problem. So you need to think about clearing up your make sure you walk your entire work site, see what's there, because clearly I need to remove this fence in order for the machine to get in down below here.
Hi, I'm Paul Willis from White Wolf Excavating. We're here to extract some invasive plants today. Just here getting started, and we'll see how it goes.
Mostly the rose today. Occasionally you will find a honeysuckle and I'll say, oh, this one, you know. That to figure out where the base is. It's been extraordinary to see the excavator at work getting rid of the Multiflora rose. 1 minute you have 20-25 feet of problem in front of you, and in really just a couple of minutes. We've been taking out some of the Multiflora roses. Got trunks like that. Here are a couple of spruce trees that we found, native spruce trees here, and those were all surrounded, and I did see those ahead of time, but there's a spruce tree over here that we did not see. I started to pull out the bushes, and next thing I know, hey, there's a spruce tree in here. I have been going ahead to make sure that now and again there's a couple of neat bushes. There's some low bush blueberry in there, there's some viburnums, and some things that are just nice to have. So I've been making sure that those don't go. He's also not running over the milkweed, and we're trying to take care of as much as we can, because the milkweed, in a couple of weeks, the pods will be drying out, and so a good chance that they could come right in here and start growing like crazy next year, which of course would be great food for the monarchs. So we're very much keeping the pollinators and the bird species and even wood turtles and various things in mind as we do this. Notice that his excavator has a thumb, which has been very helpful. It actually closes and it makes it a little more like a hand, so he can reach down and grab a large bunch and just lift it right up, and then we shake out the dirt, and our pile then is mostly rose and not full of dirt. One of the things that we kept in mind was the maturity of the fruits of the rose. These will turn red eventually, And they don't soften up very much. These stay quite hard, but notice they're very green. And so it was good to do our project now, and we're really hoping that basically these won't grow. So we have all sorts of flowering plants ready to go, and those seeds will spread, and they have open ground ready to do that too. This was totally closed in. I mean, you could see the dieback on the branches. This tree was totally enclosed in there.
Well, the morning's gone pretty good. We've got a good section of the field done now, pulling out all these invasive plants. Starting to get a technique to pulling them out and getting ready to pile them up and get rid of their bush, but make sure we get the root balls at the same time.
So a great big root there. That certainly is a multiflora rose as we yanked that enormous bush out of there. Really nice to work with somebody that has got a really nice touch with this, has some finesse with it all, and knows what they're doing. You know, here we are right up next to a fence. We've had stone walls. We've had wire fences that we've not want removed. And you know, also he was immediately aware to not go too deeply when it came to having tree roots there.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Manny, one of the Wild and Scenic 2021 interns. And today we are here at one of our locations, which is adjacent to the Center Pond Brook. We are using some of our tools to really to minimize the chances of the excavator coming in here, because we really don't want to damage any other plants here. We also saw burning bush, a couple of burning bush plants. We took those out as well.
We are in the process of pulling a fairly large multiflora rose out of a little garden on a lovely homeowner's property who's given us permission to do so. And this was quite the large individual, but through the use of clippers and polar bear and a little bit of determination, it's almost on its way out.
And while working hard here, we are trying not to get distracted by the blueberries.
A lot of times he pushes the bush aside so he can see and or find the base, and then he can give a good scoop in there. Pretty big roots there. So I don't know how many of you have ever had to try to dig out one of these bushes, but it's not for the faint of heart, and you'd be here all day trying to do what we're going to see in minutes. A lot of dead stuff, that's going to be fine, and as long as we don't get up into those branches, that thing's going to be all right. So if we can come in like this, then dig down and come over. One of the things I have been doing is drawing the back line of, there you go. Look at that, we've got a hydrangea under there. Who'd have known we were having a hydrangea under there? Okay, we're at our site where we did our multiflora rose removal. And today we're gonna start to do some of the restoration. So we've picked up a whole bunch of plants from Wing and a Prayer Nursery over in Cummington. A bunch of native plants that I've selected out, and we're going to start planting. So we're going to go see what it looks like. Wanted to just take a look at the whole site, figure out what's going on. We know we don't want to be near our burn piles very much because machinery to help burn the pile up. And number two, of course, the intensity of the heat. So we'll have to think of that. Up on the top part here, we're going to assume is going to be a little drier. If we look down there towards the edge of the woods, you know, we can put some of our shady things that are more like edge species. We can put those down in that area. It's also going to be a little moister. So if we've got anything that would be more appropriate in a slightly wetland kind of mix, then we will put some of those down there. And we're really going to create just kind of patches of things so that some of them, which will be flowering this year, may even seed right there and expand. We notice on the ground here, we've got all sorts of goldenrods already coming in. The ground here, we're seeing lots of really small asters. These are all just coming from seed, what's known as the seed bank in the soil. We're thinking of pollinators a little bit. We've been not thinking as much as covering lots of ground, as much as pollinator species and what species would we like to be present in our field here. We're already seeing nature recover.
I'm just spreading some seeds of Boltonia asteroides, or I think it's commonly called false aster. And I managed just to get a lot of seeds while I was out the other day, and typically I kind of ripped it up. I usually label them, the date I got them, and it's best to keep them in not plastic or else they may get moist, in which they'll mold and then you'll lose your seed. We've been walking around looking for some seeds and seeing what's been coming up in the past 2 weeks, and Thamia gramiifolia, I don't know, I just think it's a neat goldenrod because it's not in the Solidago genus, and the leaves have a really particularly fragrant when you break them open. Just kind of interesting to see what is here, what's already been here hiding under the mountains of Multiflora, and what kind of comes up afterwards.
Well, my work site is in back of me here. We know we had such a big infestation up there. Then part of the question is, where else have these seeds gone, these fruits? Because the animals do like to eat them to a certain extent, and we'll eat them, and basically the seeds get dropped with their feces. So it doesn't take long before we've run into it. And we see small ones here, and this one's been here a while. So we see we certainly have work to do in here. But we're in a wetland, we're in a swampy area, and typically the soils are quite loose and they're very moist. And so this is a perfect area for one of the shrub and small tree pulling tools that grab at the base of the stem. And we'll have a good sized foot on it so that you can pull it back as a lever and pull the shrub right out of the ground. The interesting thing is here we are right next to the spot, and we're seeing that there are no shrubs out here. It looks like it could be pretty good. Maybe it's too shady. Maybe the lack of moisture says something. And but we have a whole patch here where we don't see anything, and it's kind of funny that way. A little hard to explain. But what a beautiful forest. And so this is kind of part of the goal, is to not have it expand into this. So we're going to be piling that up so that next April, early April, when the snow is gone, but before things have dried out, we'll talk to the town and make sure that we can do some burning. And we won't just light the pile on fire. You could do that if it were wood, but in this case, we're going to build a fire next to it, put a little bit of the stuff on there, get it going, and as it gets going, we'll have a smaller, much smaller bucket loader kind of thing. Just keep adding the fuel to it. So one of the things in a project like this, if you're clearing the land, getting things set up for maybe a change in use, then you ought to be keeping an eye out for these invasive species and be looking for Multiflora rose and the honeysuckles, and many of these shrubs you can identify fairly easily even in the winter time. And so as you're clearing some of this, you might as well be taking that stuff out too.
Well, I didn't know what the Multiflora rose was until today, so until we came to pull them out. First time, so now I'll be more, I'll look for them when I'm out on jobs or working at different places.
Hi, I'm an intern for the Wild and Scenic Westfield River. Last year there was a massive Multiflora rose removal here using equipment, and this year we are coming through and picking up more of the stragglers that got left behind that the equipment didn't get.
My name's Jack Lenari. I'm also an intern with the Wild and Scenic for 2022. One thing we've been noticing about where the giant root balls were removed last year is that on the outskirts of each disturbed area is where a lot of the smaller little plants are popping up. So that's something really important that you have to come back the year after and focus on areas in the outskirts of where the plants were removed.
My name is Natalia.
My name is Kelly.
And we're here, Jackie's with us as well, learning a little bit about the removal of invasive species. We're really happy to be here today and get such like an educational and like hands-on experience of like the work that actually goes on in these projects. So today we visited a barberry removal site and we took out a couple barberry bushes. We also saw some burning bush, learned how to identify that and pulled some of that out of the ground. And now we're here at this multiflora removal site all down this way. You know, used to be like a big hedge area and now it's being managed by a really cool group of people. Yeah.
What was your favorite thing that you learned today?
Yeah, this is a special experience for me, also for my team members. I think the most interesting thing is to find the species we need to find, and we learn how to cut and remove them. Yeah.
Well, this will be very interesting to see what we find today. This is a project we started 2 years ago, and this field behind us here was loaded with multiflora rows, and we're talking like 10 and 12 foot tall bushes, enormous bushes. And so what we did is we hired an excavator to come in and dig out the bushes. And there were enough of them. They filled significant, probably at least 60% of the field here. Really, in just a few days, we were able to clear the whole field. And then manually, we went in and got some of the smaller things that you wouldn't really get with a... But we had such a good start, and now we could really get in there. We did a little bit of planting, mostly probably to add diversity rather than any kind of stabilization. There's plenty of stuff in there. Goldenrods, we're going to come right in, and just loads of plants. And so we're going to look 2 years later. Let's see what this looks like. This is an enormous black elderberry here. And this was so buried in rows. We have very large stems indicating its trunks really, indicating it was really old, but you could hardly see it at the time. And we really just opened it up and gave it new life, and it absolutely exploded. And now we've seen a whole bunch of new growth from down below, and yep, the ends of the trunks were falling off and everything. And now it has just exploded again. And those are going to be loaded with berries up there. So you can imagine how many birds will be feeding off of those. The cedar waxwings will be in here like crazy, and catbirds and robins, and probably everybody takes advantage of this. Oh, what do we have here? Nice, we've got a nice little agastache here, and it's in bloom. A little guy right now, it can be quite a bit taller. And but that's nice. Find another one of our plantings. This is white snake root, and it's done very well. Look at it, looks quite healthy. All the leaves are full, and we've got some flowers forming on the top. So hopefully we'll get some seed, and it'll move into this field a little bit more. So we even have some shrubby species here that have made it. This little guy down here, aronia or chokeberry. And again, that'll make berries too. This clump of boneset we would have set here as well. And that's doing just great. But we can see it's got plenty of company. Everything's done very well in here. When you take on a project like this, you do need to come back and you know, you go through all that effort, the cost of you know, the people involved and any materials and tools. Then you want to really make sure you kind of have finished the job. So each year we have a small group of people come back, and just manually we kind of walk around. We'll mark. This is what some of the stakes have been in the pictures, but we mark places where we're getting some regrowth If you don't get all of the root, at times it will come right back, and it won't be nearly as robust, and but you knock it back again. And also if there's some young ones, you want to get things early while it's easy to do, and you might as well really finish the project because you've done so much work and it looks so nice now. Ecologically, it's much more functional for pollinators and wildlife coming for food. We've seen numerous places where the deer have been bedding, and so stay with your project, follow it for a few years, and you have to go back and do cleanup, and that's all right. It gives you a chance to reflect on the accomplishment you already have made.